Hey everybody, Bonnie Bonadeo here. Okay, that was a lot of work putting this all together, but I do believe it's possible that I'm live on my Facebook feed right now. So today I'm going to do something a little differently. It ended up that I have two of my live things, well, one live thing and one podcast going on at the same time. So I've merged them today. So we have the Salon Owner Solution virtual roundtable that's happening. And I've got a couple people that have been patiently waiting here on Zoom with me to be able to participate with me. They're going to get a little extra time on the back end of this to be able to look at our topic of the day, which is really about leadership. Well, it's always about leadership because that's kind of where that's my lane and it's my love. So, but it's where your leadership journey begins. That's what I'm saying. So, welcome aboard you guys to the podcast. Welcome to the SOS Salon Owner Solution Virtual Roundtable. Okay, I'm your host, Bonnie Bonadeo, and I call myself a leadership architect because I do believe that there are two very strategic places for leadership. One is, of course, strategy, and two is communications. Now, if you can establish strategy within your business and you have the ability to communicate it, I promise you, you will grow. No question about it. You will grow. And we have to be able to look at what those ecosystems are for growth. Like, where are you spending your time? Because if it's day-to-day operations, you need to start, as an owner, you need to start replacing yourself in day-to-day operations because you have to work on bigger picture strategy in order for this to support your growth. So today, our session is called Captain the Strategy, Not Just the Ship. Now, this is what I'm calling here. It's one thing to be an owner, it's another to be a leader. Those are two different skill sets. And yes, you have to work both of those as an owner, but the strategy piece is big picture growth and or delegating day-to-day operations. That's your goal as an owner to be able to do that. And so I always focus in on what I call the five anchors for success. So it's sales, operations, education, marketing, mindset. And today we're going to look at sales and operations because strategy falls under sales, okay? And leadership falls under operations. And we want to be able to kind of support both of those. So let's talk about strategic leadership here for just a minute. Most of you guys think that you're in a salon business, but you're not. You're in the experience business. And right now, if you're letting your clients drift away instead of leading them on this experiential journey, then we're going to lose them. There's going to be an opportunity where we're not going to have them. So, the biggest thing that we have to look at is when we understand a specific agenda, we can align with achieving the results. When they did this survey with 10,000 employees that worked for Fortune 500 companies, and the survey was around what do you look for in a leadership? What do you think are the leadership skills? Now, this is an exercise that I do a lot in some of my live sessions, not so easy to do on a virtual session. But if you think about what the top three skills of a leadership are, what would you say? What would you be saying? So you'd be saying something like, oh, they're a good listener, they're empathetic, they care, they help you, they provide direction type of thing. So those would be like what you consider to be the top attributes of leadership. But they dove down a little bit deeper with these 10,000 employees and they asked them, if you left a company, what was the number one reason why you left? And the answer was management and or leadership, right? Management was kind of the popular answer over leadership. And then they asked it one step further and they said, what was it about management that had you leave? And they said, lack of direction and communication. Lack of direction and communication. So here we are. Direction is strategy, and communication is communicating the strategy. When people know where they stand and people know where they need to go, it's really easy for us to do that. So you can imagine that it's like if I put a ladder in front of you and said, okay, you're on the first rung and I need you to get to rung number 10 in order to have the success that you want. to have the success that you want in this industry. But if I just walked up with the one rung of the ladder and there was no other parts of the ladder or they were scattered all over the place, then that person would be like, how do I step up? How do I get up there? And we have to be able to, not only as owners, manage the business that we're in, but as leaders, we have to strategically align our people with the opportunity for growth. Leadership is about personal development, communication, and strategy. Ownership is about managing the day-to-day operations, the business itself, the inventory, the building the clients, working with your team, setting up boundaries, policies, procedures, all of that, operations, right? Your goal as an owner is to be able to delegate the operations away. You think big strategy and implementing strategy, executing strategy. I promise you, we have to plan for success. So I'm going to ask you, how are you planning for success? So we're already first quarter's done and we're into second quarter. First month of second quarter is almost over with already. Where are you at according to your goal? Now, some people will say, well, I don't really have a goal for this year. Well, then what's your expectation of growing if you don't have a goal? If you have a goal, then you could say, all right, so last year I did 500,000 and this year I'm going big and I want to do 600,000. That's $100,000 that you have to allocate to growth. And how are you going to do that? How are you going to divide $100,000 up between maybe five areas that represent your growth opportunities, represent that strategy? And then how are you going to communicate that with your team? Right? How are you going to communicate that with your team? So this $100,000 could be divided by hiring a new person, okay? Raising your prices, focusing on rebooking, selling more retail, maybe gift cards, some type of membership program. Okay. All of those things. And you're going to divvy out where that $100,000 is going to go for the growth. So that's what my goal is for 2026. But then we have to look at, are you growing from last year? So we want to look at year to date numbers. So from first quarter 2025 to first quarter 2026, did you have growth? And if you did have growth, congratulations, because that's a huge opportunity for us. I mean, growing is not easy, period, in our business. If you were flat, you have to evaluate why there wasn't growth. Now, yes, cost of goods are going up. Maybe you didn't raise your prices to be able to offset that opportunity for growth, or 100 other reasons, right? Third, if you did not grow, if you were below last year's first quarter numbers from this quarter, this past quarter's numbers, then you have to look at why you're not growing, because this is a pattern or a path you cannot be on for second, third, or fourth quarter, because then you will not be in business by the time the end of the year happens. All right. So you have to evaluate it from this point of view. If you did not grow from 25 to 26, I want you to think, was the reason why within your control or not within your control? So there could be areas of opportunity that says somebody left unexpectedly. Okay. And that's kind of, that falls in the middle because there is some level of control over that. If you have a strong culture and your people are growing, there would be reason for them to go necessarily. If you're in an area where the weather gets bad and maybe typically you close for 2 days out of a winter season, but this year you closed for 5 days out of a winter season because it was a bad, you had no control over that. Okay, there was no control over that. One of my salons had a water line break, and although they only had to close for a week, they had to create this makeshift salon, which still altered their ability to manage the growth that they were typically having. So, you know, something that's not out of my control at this point. So you have to be able to say, if it was in your control, did you have a strategy in place to be able to grow? Or did you have a strategy in place that you were prepared to grow with, but didn't put energy, effort, money, intention, or resources into it. And that's what I want you to think about here. I call this the timer method: time, intention, money, energy, resources. That you put into a strategy. The strategy then becomes a live working document. And then that live working document becomes the plan that you then communicate effectively with your team to be able to growth. Now, there could be the big picture growth that you have as a salon, but now you got to divvy up all that growth between your employees. So maybe everybody needs to know that you want to grow retail by $10,000. And then you're going to distribute that $10,000 between your employees so that everybody has a stake in this. And that then gives you the opportunity to start measuring it. So if somebody's on target, great, congratulations, I'm recognizing you. If somebody's below, okay, then I have to be able to look at what's the resistance for them of selling retail, and what's the reality here. If I don't shift something, if I don't do something differently with them, the reality is that they're going to fall behind and we may not meet our goal. Guys, this is not hard to do, but it does take time to sit and do it. So I'm going to show you the picture here. This is what I call my one-page plan, and you have the opportunity to be able to download it at this point. And if you download it, it's SOS onepageplan.com. Okay, SOS onepageplan.com. Download it. And then I want you to look at it. Remember, we talked about the five anchors for success. It's the same thing. So there's the sales anchor, operations, marketing, education, mindset. You're just going to fill in the blanks. Now, this would be per strategy. So if you have one or two strategies that you want to implement, say for the remaining part of second quarter going into third quarter, okay, then each strategy is going to be on a page. You're going to duplicate this, and each strategy is going to be on a page. Now, this weekend, I had the opportunity to work with my favorite gals, Bridget Sobis and Nikki Lee. We call ourselves Together. We combined a brand identity together, the Beauty Leadership Lab, and we were at the ABS show. And we thought we would try an all-day leadership event at that show on a Saturday. We didn't know what to expect, but here's what we got. We had a small, intimate crowd of people that stayed all day and engaged with us all day. Nobody left. Everybody learned something. Everybody walked away feeling more confident with what they need to do in order to be a better leader and build strategy within their salon going home. Of course, there was all different kinds of people in the room. There were people that were owners for 10 plus years, and then somebody that was an owner for only 2 years. And then there was a manager that wasn't even an owner, but felt they had a lot of these same responsibilities with the owner. And it was a very diverse crowd. But I got to tell you, I was very proud of them. They were very committed, and they didn't from a show standpoint, sometimes when we're in classes and shows, people ask a lot of questions that kind of take you off your beat. And they're asking those questions because they don't know, but it may not be relative to what you can share with them at that moment to stay on course. These people asked really intelligent questions as we went along, and they progressed with us within the topics that we discussed for an entire day. So 9:30 to 5:30, they stayed with us the entire day. It was very impressive, and we got some really great feedback from that. This is one of the things that I shared with them, was to be able to look at how they can create this plan. Now, there's a bigger plan than that. That's just kind of the one-page plan. And that one-page plan kind of is implemented into what I call the Salon Success Blueprint. And again, it focuses in on the sales, operations, marketing, education, and mindset, the 5 strategies here of how you want to be able to do that. Sales is always a quantifiable approach. So I'm gonna go off of here, and I'm just going to show you. I'm going to stay on my screen, but I'm going to go off of this. And it might look awkward here, you guys. Hang on, stay with me here. There's this. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so you can see it. Let me see if that's still sharing. Let's see what it's sharing. What am I sharing? Okay, good. That's it. All right. So this is what I call the Salon Success Blueprint. It's your annual strategy and leadership playbook, right? So I'm just going to kind of go through what this is all about. Let me make it a little smaller so you can see it. Yeah. So I just kind of create an introduction. And then, of course, here's the chapters that you're going to go through, looking at where you are right now and where you want to go. Chapter implementing sales, operations, implementing marketing, education, implementing mindset, and then how to be able to put it all together. So, first anchor is sales. And that first anchor that you're going to do with sales is you're going to just do a data dump and you're going to list 5 to 10 things that you believe can increase your sales. All right, 5 to 10 things. They don't have to be big, they don't have to be complicated. Okay, and preferably don't do more than one complicated thing in a year. So if you're going to do like a membership or a VIP program, know that that's a lot of back end support that you have to get in place before you launch it. And then once you launch it, it has to be a campaign that you are putting time and attention to all year in order to achieve the number of memberships that you're hoping for, right? That is a more complicated process. But increasing retail, selling more gift cards, increasing retention, frequency of visit, rebooking percentages, average ticket sales, client retention, all of those things have potential to grow your business. And they would be considered a sales strategy. So you're going to put that together. Then we're going to go into the anchor 2, which is operations. And you're going to take these, say, 5 strategies. You're going to break down what operationally needs to happen with that. Okay. I got to find out if my software even does a membership program. I got to learn how my software does this membership program. I'm going to do some market research and find out what are some of the most successful membership programs that people have had out there. So I might go on some forums or maybe my software Facebook user page and ask people, hey, who has a membership program? Can you tell me a little bit about your membership program? And what would I need to know if I was going to start? What's the one thing I need to know if I was going to start one today that you had learned, right? Then the third thing is marketing. Now I'm going to take these sales strategies. I've got the back end operations in place. And now I'm going to put together a marketing campaign or strategy for each of those things, right? I know it sounds complicated. Focus on one right now, one, right? And then I gave you some tips of marketing here to be able to do that. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at education. And education really kind of focuses in on a couple areas here. The education is, what do I need to learn as an owner? What does my team need to learn in order to fulfill my strategy suggestions? What do my clients need to learn in order to align with what I'm considering as some potential strategies that create a better experience or a better value for my clients? And then, of course, in the end, we have to look at mindset. What are the 5 things that are going to happen that's going to take you off your game and not have you stay committed to the intention and the consistency of fulfilling these strategies that you put together? So it could be you get caught up in day-to-day operations. It could be that you get, after month 1, it just kind of fades away. You forget about it. What is it going to take for you to stay committed to it and hold yourself accountable to the end result? All right. This is why I always say start a strategy at the beginning of a quarter, at the beginning of the month. Just do it for that short amount of time so that you can kind of get into the game of, this is my focus. This is the result I'm looking for. Now I'm going to implement it and execute it and see how close I get to the goal I'm trying to reach. And when you start reaching some of these smaller goals, it gets pretty exciting because then you see growth opportunity here. All right. So now in this annual plan, you're going to go through and you're going to put together the ideas that you want for quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. And then, of course, there's might be some bonus things that you want to do throughout the year. That's kind of outside of maybe a whole quarter type of thing. What are the things that you want to accomplish here? It may look like I need to hire, maybe in quarter 2, I need to find an assistant. So I got to hit beauty schools, right? That's part of the operations, part of the marketing. Or maybe you want to be able to do a retail incentive for your clients. And So you're going to package up a retail incentive. You're going to make sure that everybody's educated on it within your team. And then you're going to put a campaign out to your clients so that you're teaching your clients to buy as well as teaching your stylists to sell. Yeah. From there, we're going to look at revenue and what's some of the challenges we're focused with in revenue. Now you got a whole spreadsheet here that is going to help you keep track of all of this stuff. So you have the opportunity to get an Excel spreadsheet that is going to calculate it. You just have to put in a few numbers yourself in a couple of these cells. And then what it's going to do is start keeping track of your sales goals and comparison from last year to this year within this one spreadsheet. Easy breezy, right? You're going to find that. But the next thing we have to look at is growth and alignment. And this is what I was talking about earlier. So growth and alignment would look like if you did 500,000 and you want to do 600,000 in sales, where is that extra $100,000 coming from? Based on the assumption the $500,000 worth of business is maintaining itself. So that's maintaining itself. Now I need to find growth over here. And what you're going to do is you're going to allocate out these five things that you're going to do from the year. You're going to allocate them by percentage, number, and or pieces. Okay, it's got to be quantifiable. Percentage, numbers, pieces. And then this is going to calculate how much of those dollars are going to be focused on that, and also how much your time needs to be spent on that focus. So we all know that recruiting and hiring is a big project. So if 30% of this $100,000 is coming in through recruitment of a new person, you need to make sure that you're spending 30% of your time recruiting. All right. Now, here we go. This is the one-page plan. All right. So this is my one-page plan for strategy one, strategy two, strategy three. You're just going to kind of like start, making copies of this. I have copies in here for you, but you can make copies of this. And then that's going to allow you to kind of be able to look at your whole plan together. Then you're going to go back and you're going to say, okay, these are my three sales strategies I'm going to focus on. Here's the operational task list that goes behind it. Here's my marketing campaign to be able to support it. Here's who I need to educate in the process of it. And maybe as an owner, looking at your mindset, what's going to stop you from getting this done? But also then, what can I delegate off of my plate to my team so that I can get the support I need in order to fulfill it? So you have a to-do list, you have some notes here in the end. You guys, this is pretty easy to do. Now, this particular plan here that I put together, it's $99, but you get 2 strategy sessions with me. So one, we're going to go through and we're going to figure out what those 3 strategies are. And the second session, we're going to take one strategy and I'm going to walk you all the way through the process so that you can see how to implement and how to achieve the results that you're looking for. And then at that point, if you want to continue to work with me on a short or long-term basis, that's fine. You can, jump on board with me. I have several packages that you can choose from in that. But this is designed to be kind of a DIY program, right? It's a do it yourself. If you need to do it with me, then that's fine. But this is designed to be able to be a DIY. If you follow a plan, you have a 42% opportunity to actually achieve the goals. And you know how many people write down plans? Less than 1%. Less than 1% of it write down the plans to be able to achieve the goals. So there's so much opportunity for you here. And I wanted to share this with you because it's so simple to be able to kind of start piecing together. You just got to take the time to put in it. Now, as I said from the very beginning, I'm going to go off of this. As I said from the very beginning, leadership is 2 things. One is strategy, how to be able to develop strategy that's going to create growth. Now, I'm talking about revenue growth, but hopefully this revenue growth is going to end up being a bottom line profit growth for you too. Not always. Sometimes there's expenses involved that may take away from it being a profitable project. Second thing, communication. If you learn how to do strategy and you learn how to communicate the strategy, I promise you growth is in your future. And you're going to shift from being an owner to a leader. And I have some leadership programs that I want to share with you as well, that are definitely going to support you in what you need in order to grow as a leader, Okay, so let's look at those. Here's that. Obviously, the salon and the roundtables, they happen on the first and third Wednesday at 10 a.m. They're designed to be very short, 30 minutes. And then, of course, I have Intro to Heart and Edge Leadership. So this is where the communication piece is going to come in. So every month I'm doing this. The next one is on May 11th. It's at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can go to SOS Heart and Edge. Okay, SOS Heart and Edge, to be able to sign up for that. It's free. It's a free webinar. It's an introductory class to be able to show you how you can be a more communicative leader in there. All right. So thanks for letting me merge these two things together today, the podcast and the roundtable. I appreciate the people that showed up here. I'm going to log off from this live session and from record, and I'm going to work with the people now that have joined me on Zoom for the roundtable and help them out with some of the questions they have in order to be super efficient with strategy and super effective with communications. All right. Thanks for joining me, guys.